to which local content laws and regulations of member countries of ECOWAS comply with ECOWAS provisions. And there have been various viewpoints on that. And I also remember in Ghana, around 2012, 2013, when we were trying to develop or get approval for local content regulations. There are many discussions as to the extent to which it breached key provisions in WTO agreements, especially trade-related agreements. By the way, that is history. So what I'm going to just share with you briefly is about the local content provisions in few countries in West Africa that are resource-rich, and the extent to which these provisions comply or breaches after provisions, and what can we do about it. For the sake of time, I will be rushing through the presentation, go to the relevant portions. In Ghana, when you say local content, what do you mean? Local content. That define local content as local content means the use of Ghanaian human and material resources, services, and businesses for the systematic development of national capacity and capabilities for the enhancement of Ghanaian economy. Here, the emphasis is always on Ghanaian human resources, Ghanaian services, and Ghanaian businesses. Now, what are the key provisions in the regulations that protect Ghanaian industries and Ghanaian personnel from competition from outside? The law requires that for the exploration and production activities, there should be a minimum of 5% participation of Ghanaian businesses before a foreign company will allow to undertake E&P activities. For those who are providing services in the petroleum sector, they need a minimum participation of 10% participation of Ghanaians. The law also requires that first consideration should be given to goods and services provided or manufactured in Ghana. Ghanaian professionals should be given first consideration with respect to employment and training. And there should be adequate provisions for training of Ghanaians. Now, when you look at other countries, Nigeria, you see a similar provisions in the Nigeria Local Content Act, which always put emphasis on goods and services produced in Nigeria and by Nigerians, and also employment of Nigerians. When you look at Equatorial Guinea, which is also a resource-rich country, they have similar provisions that always give preferences to local or Equatorial goods and services. Now, what is the challenge here? The challenge here is that the local content regulations in these countries, there's the lack of effective regional collaboration by member countries to exploit synergies that can be obtained when they decide to cooperate, rather than each country pushing its market to each other. And that is the one reason why the African leaders, in their wisdom, say that there's a need to create a regional market that will explore various synergies that exist in Africa. So in May 2020, about 55 countries came together and formed AFTA. I mean, this is history, so I won't spend much time on this. The key objective of AFTA is to, one, create a single continental market for goods and services with free movement of businesses, persons, and investment. Two, expand intra-African trade through better harmonization and coordination of trade policies. Three, enhance competitiveness at the industry and enterprise level. And four, resolve all multiple challenges and overlapping membership and the expanded regional and continental integration process. Now, what does AFTA bring to member countries? One, AFTA facilitate mobility of labor, which will ensure increase in employment and availability of skilled labor across the continent, especially to lower import prices due to free movement of goods and services. The trade liberalization that will be created by AFTA will lead to competition, production, and efficiencies. It will also give access to cheap labor across the continent and inputs. It will increase competitiveness of African businesses at the global level, among other things. For the sake of time, let me just quickly move to the key item. Now, when you look at after provisions and local content regulations in many countries within Africa, especially those countries that have petroleum resources, how does their local content regulations sit after provisions? One, after support liberalization, like free movement of people, goods, and services, the local content regulations, in principle, support protectionism and infant industrial agreements. After provide for unrestricted capital and labor movements across the member countries. Local content regulations restrict movement of labor and capital across the member countries. After provides for non-discrimination provisions. For instance, Article 4 of AFTA provides for most favored nation treatment, in the sense, if any country within the member states extend a trade privilege to any country, whether within AFTA or outside AFTA, that privilege should be extended to any other country within AFTA. It also provides for national treatment provisions that if you acquire any products or services to any company within member states, that privilege should also be extended to any firm within AFTA member countries. What do you have in local content? Local content provisions provide for restrictions, and it provides preferences to goods manufactured AFTA requires that there is equal opportunity for all businesses within the member countries. Local content provisions restrict, but AFTA requires that there will be no barrier or exit for for firms within AFTA member countries. The local content provisions front on that. So when you look at most of the provisions in local content regulations and provisions of AFTA, there appear to be certain contradictions in these provisions. And the question is, how do you resolve these contradictions? Let me just jump to the next. When you look at some of the articles, provision AFTA, it provides for certain exemptions and escape clauses for countries to enact local laws that will protect the interests of those countries. Article 50, for instance, provides that upon a request by a member country, a waiver of obligations imposed on a member state may be granted by the Council of Ministers by consensus, either for a short or long period of time. And it goes on to provide that where necessary, a country may secure compliance with local laws or regulations which are not inconsistent with provisions of the AFTA protocol. So some of the safeguard measures, ones that involve that a country can advance infant industry protection agreements to get exemptions to protect local industries if they feel threatened by competition from other countries. One of my panelists mentioned, for instance, how a country like Nigeria, that is a new oil and gas producer, compete with mature countries such as Nigeria or even South Africa. And so there are provisions after where a country can advance infant industrial protection agreements to protect local industry. There's also safeguard clauses when there's a sudden surge of imports that threaten local manufacturing base. There's also countervailing provisions which allow the country to involve countervailing provisions by imposing countervailing taxes to protect local industries. Now, the evidence exists that there are many countries that are also in a similar free trade bloc or customs union that have local content regulations and at the same time operate within the free trade bloc. And there are countries in Europe, Asia, and in Africa. And I can mention UK that operates, used to be in the European Union and European Economic Union, Norway, Malaysia, that is member of ASEAN, Brazil in Mercosur, Trinidad and Tobago in CARIFORUM, Kazakhstan in the EAU, Indonesia, ASEAN, and other countries. These countries are full members of the original free trade blocs. But at the same time, they also have local content laws and regulations that protect their local industry. So this clearly suggests that the local content laws and regulations of individual countries can go exist within the AFTA protocol. I will just jump. So what should you do as government of member states? In spite of the escape clauses that I've mentioned, there may be need for various countries' local content regulations to amend certain requirements of their domestic laws and regulations to be consistent.
Hello? Mr. Boateng, can you hear us?
I think it's frozen for him. It's frozen for me too.
It's frozen for, yes, it's frozen on mine, so I think it's probably from his end.